Hey everyone, welcome back to Beekeeping with Natalie, or welcome to if you're new. Today's video is going to be kind of a preparing for splits. So I'm going to do a talk later in Quincy, Illinois about making splits and how we get ready for that, to prepare our hives for that. So if you want to listen to that, I guess you can show up, but I don't want too many people there because that's a little scary. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and go through this hive right here, this double that's painted and everything. So it's basically a split from last year, I believe, or something like that, that we ended up putting on these 4-way pallets, which we really like. And we're going to go ahead and check them for swarm cells and then kind of just get an idea of how many frames of brood they've got. And then I'm also going to go over to maybe over there or check these ones, which were singles sometime last week, and then I ended up adding another box to them just to check to see how they're looking with their new box and if they're starting to build out that comb. I did give them a drawn frame and then the rest was foundation. But we're gonna check them out, see how they're doing, and I'm a little bit concerned to see if they're a little bit spicy, so the video might be paused at some point, that way I can go put a jacket on, but I thought I would try the veil out for today just because I don't really like wearing a jacket. But in the front here, I don't know if you can see, maybe get down close, there's a ton of bees dead on the ground here. There could be a lot of different reasons for that, raccoons, skunks, stuff like that. I don't think it's a skunk. Usually those will like tear the bee in half. These bees are just dead up here, so you can see they're just all over in the grass and everything. Sometimes when you see that in the front, that can mean that they will be a little spicy because they're super defensive. So we're gonna go ahead and just give it a shot. We've got these buckets on top, and all our bees, so far we've had one swarm in our yard. We don't know who it came from. So far I'm thinking it's feral, but I don't know, we'll see. I haven't checked them in a little while. If the queen is marked, then we'll know, but we don't really mark all of our queens. So anyways, let's go ahead, and I usually don't take the lid off when I'm doing a tip test. I'm gonna do that right now. I usually do the tip test first, get an idea of what they look like, and then I'll open the lid. And so if you've never heard of a tip test, basically what it is checking to see if they have swarm cells. And so I take this second box and I lift it up, that way I can see if there's some queen cells down there. And if there is, then we're gonna have to go through every single frame, shake the bees off, make sure that the queen's not on there, and make sure they don't have any other cells. That way we can tear them down, and that way they won't swarm. Usually when they swarm, they'll just go into one of our trees, and we sometimes catch them. Sometimes we'll miss them. And sometimes we'll be there right when they're swarming out of the box, which is always fun. Haven't got that on video yet, but if you want to come over here, I'm going to do the tip test on this side. So I'm just going to crack the box, see how they're looking. So all the frames are connected to the box, which is super annoying. I'm just going to pull those down. I talk about propolis all the time, but it's just crazy here, so. All right, lots of bees. I like to give them some smoke, that way I can kind of get an idea if there are any cells down here. A lot of times this time of the year, there's just a bunch of cups. So here's a cup right here. They would have built it out if they were starting to swarm. You don't have to tear the cups down, but sometimes I'll just kind of smush them, just to make myself feel better about it. So they've got a few empty frames right here. These are foundation frames, but there's still a ton of bees in here, and they're still gonna need to be split. So let's just go through this top box and see how many frames of brood they have in here. Currently we're doing about 2 frames of brood for our splits, which isn't a ton, but they seem to do fine with that. So let's just see how they're looking. Right now they're getting to that point where some of them are just so full. I've been finding queens in crazy places. I've been finding a lot of queens on the lid lately. If there's like comb built on the lid, you want to make sure she's not on there, because this time of the year they get to the point where they've just run out of space to lay, and so they're anywhere trying to find a place to lay. And the other day I did a tip test and she was just right there at the bottom, so I clipped her. That's her just looking for a place to lay because she has no no spot. So definitely want to give them another box if they're single, or you want to go ahead and split them. We've had some triple deeps that we had to do just because they were getting so big and they probably would have swarmed soon, but we were having bad weather, and so we didn't want to do splits. So we just put some triple deeps on them to give them some time. So here's just some foundation frames that they haven't yet drawn out. This one looks like almost fresh comb. They're starting a little bit. I also think we have something, a couple days ago I was pretty sure we had a decent flow going because they were not on any of the syrup, and like this is full. And so this could be some of the syrup, but there might be some nectar coming in. I don't know yet. I don't know what it would be. I know black locust will actually be starting here in a few weeks, which is crazy. And so we don't want to split all of our hives down to pretty small because we want to make sure we're getting some honey. And if the black locust does good, we usually can get a really good flow from that, and the honey is really good. And so we don't want to split them too much, that way they won't be able to make any honey. So we're leaving a couple hives pretty strong, that way they'll be able to take some supers and fill that. So this is pretty much all full. This is just all pollen. I don't know if you can see, but there's some really pretty colors down in there. Some really nice bee bread. And I'm just gonna kind of keep checking here. But then today I was actually filling some Ziplocs for our splits, and there was some bees getting to the syrup. So I don't know. Usually when they're not on any of the syrup, that'll mean there's something else out there that they're looking for. But if they're trying to get to that syrup that I'm pouring, that might mean there's nothing out there. So it's just a mess. I don't know. So here's a nice frame of brood. So there's a little patch down there that she filled with eggs, but otherwise it looks pretty good. Another thing that we're looking for this time of the year is what we call shotgunny. There's a lot of bees on here, you almost can't see the brood, but when it's shotgunny, it kind of looks like she just kind of laid everywhere in just like little spots, like little patches, and there's some empty, like a lot of empty cells. It just kind of looks like a mess, and we'll usually go ahead and requeen those just because we want them to be laying nice solid frames of brood. Smoker's kind of going out. We ran out of fuel for our smoker, so we've just been using nature, and it's not going super well. At least for me, it's not. This is a mix of like grass and leaves, and it seems to go out kind of fast, so I kind of have to keep pumping it, but it's okay. So that was that 2 or 1 frames for brood? I don't remember. It might have been just 1. If I can pull this out, they're just sticking to those bottom frames, so it's hard to get them out of there. They don't seem bad. I thought they were going to be kind of spicy, but they're not bad. So that looks like a mess, not gonna lie. We've got, this isn't like super nice looking frame. This is actually kind of a mess. We've got eggs in here. Got brood here, brood there, got some honey out on the edges, and then we've got some weird drone brood going on right here, along with the bottom down here. So it looks like this one fell off. I like to sometimes just look at that larva to see if there's any mites on there, because the mites usually like that drone brood, just to see if there is. I'm gonna do maybe a couple other frames. There's not a whole lot of brood up top here. We've had some hives that have like 6 or 7 frames of nice solid frames of brood. So those are definitely going to need to be split just because they're about to blow up and then are going to want to swarm, which we don't want that. Yeah, so she's just laying this up as it's emerging, which is good. Just kind of keeping my eye out for her also. All right, I'm gonna say that's probably good because I'm gonna come back in a minute here. I'm gonna close them up, come back and kind of finish it out. And I'm just gonna basically start splitting them. She's not super excited, so. All right, so I'm gonna close them up and then we're gonna check one of these, not singles, but they were singles that I just added a double box to them. I think I'll maybe do that one. I think both of these actually I added a box to probably about, not quite a week ago, a few days ago. Just to see if they're starting to draw it out. I like to give them syrup to kind of help them draw that out also. We usually have a lot of problems with not having enough drawn frame because we use it a lot for many different things. But this year we are actually running out of foundation frames. But let's go ahead and open this one up, see how they're looking. I'm trying to get my smoker going again. It doesn't go fully out, it just takes a while to get it back. I think there's something, yeah. Give them some smoke, and then looks like they're up here a little bit, maybe. So you can kind of tell which is a new frame and then which drawn comb I gave them right here. Wanted to make sure to give them a drawn comb, that way she can get to laying right away if they're not super quick on drawing this out. Doesn't look like they are. Doesn't look like they're really starting at all. Looks like they're filling this a little bit. They're kind of starting to draw wax on those frames. Let's check another one. Even if it was too early to put a box on, I just wanted to be safe that way. They didn't swarm or anything while the weather was bad, because for some reason they love to swarm on rainy days or right before a big storm. Hopefully you can hear me, my mic's kind of all messed up. Let's check this one. These two were actually really strong, and so I wanted to add a box to them. So this bucket had some syrup in it. It's probably a little less than halfway at this point. So it looks like that kind of brought them up a little bit into this top box. I'm also seeing some pollen coming in. All right, so they are up here. Looks like there's a couple random frames. I'm not sure if they drew that out or if that was already like that, but I'm gonna pull it out so you can see. It's kind of like there's some orange pollen and then there's some like really white, like light stuff. So I don't think they did this. I think that was, no, actually they are starting to draw this out. So they've got just a little bit right here, and then they've got this that they're getting to. It takes them a little while, but they're getting there. Yeah, so if you can, I don't know if you can see this, but if you can get down into the box, you can see that they're kind of holding on to each other down in there. It might be a little too dark, but they're kind of like holding on to each other, building wax. It's cool to see. You see it a lot, and then kind of just forget how cool it is, I guess. All right, so they're just filling this also. So this frame was really dirty and was from a dead out, and so there was a few bees that had starved out down in here and some up here. For the most part, they cleaned it out. They'll probably still clean this out, hopefully. But there's some hives that, like, if they're really strong, you can give them some really dirty frames and they'll clean it up, which is always nice. So don't get rid of that drawn comb if there's some dead bees in there. The bees will clean them up if you give it to a strong hive. So that was really it for today's video. I didn't really have anything big planned, but there's a lot, just like little things that we're looking for this time of the year, and the things we're doing now are kind of time consuming, like making splits. They can take a little time. We'll probably do some videos on our splits here in a little bit, just like feeding them, things like that. We've got some cells in the incubator right now that are about ready to be put in some hives, so that's what we're working on today. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go through these doubles, make sure I get them split, and I think that's all. So again, I'll be talking on splitting and how we do it here in Quincy, Illinois in July, I believe. I don't know the exact dates, but I know it's in July. So anyways, if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to ask them in the comment section, and thanks for watching today's video. Follow along for more bee adventures, and be here next time on Beekeeping with Natalie.